After my life really started, after I finished my career. So I did try, though I did try becoming a social media consultant. And that didn't go very well because all the decision makers were 20 years younger than me. And it's very hard to sell whatever you've got when the person at the other end sees you as a grand uncle. Then Kejriwal was coming up, and this was before the Aam Aadmi Party was coming up. And I joined him. Then I joined some international social service organization. Very interesting why I did this and why I was doing all this. So the number one reason was that when somebody asked me at a party, what do you do? I had to say something. Because normally in India, when people meet you, even before asking you your name, they say, so what do you do? So you have to fake up something. And it's a very good thing. Suppose you say, I'm doing social service for this international organization. You look respectable, you look nice. Then the second was I had this great fear that whenever I meet youngsters, have I become irrelevant? Because I had nothing to do. And believe me, after you retire, this is a huge fear. This fear of becoming irrelevant. And the third thing is I needed an occupation. I was just plain and simple bored at home. Just, I was more like a bull, roaming around in the streets. So that is what I was up to. And I did various things. Long and short of it is that I was thoroughly dissipated, trying to do things for various reasons and trying to do things that were not me. Then came a huge period of, I'm sorry, keeping track of the time, so I'm going to go a little faster. I spent a lot of time, I was bored, frustrated. There was a huge amount of emptiness, loneliness. I mean, I know I was in such a bad shape, almost depressed, that, how many times can you renovate the house to be occupied? Because, you have nothing to do. You don't know what to do. You don't know which way your mind will go, what your actions will be. It's really bad. You try that for 5 years after retirement and something will happen to you too. When I thought that I can't do something like this, I'm naturally introspective by nature. And so I thought, let me do one thing. Let me just sit down and forget the past, because the past hasn't worked. And I said, the first thing I did was I edited my LinkedIn profile. So even if you see it now, my LinkedIn profile is basically this: IIT Delhi, 1979, I am Babra. And the year markers are only for one thing. And that is that if you want to connect with me, you need to know that, look, I'm sure there are millions of Sunil Agrawals in the world, that this is the guy who was there. And yes, you can connect with me, which is the only reason I keep a LinkedIn profile. Yeah, I built up this place of my own. And in that place, sacred space, I introspected. And I looked around, all my books were over there. And I said, what is it that I really like? And I saw many books. There were lots of self-help books. And then there were lots of books on humor. So I said, maybe this is what I like doing. And yes, since childhood, I'd like to crack, I like jokes. So what I did was I got on to Amazon and I ordered literally 100 books related to comedy. And I used to go through them very lovingly. There's nothing like having a hard copy book in your hand and to go through it, lovely paper, and after that to say that, look, I had many of them highlighted. And I've still got them. And one book leads to another, and something leads to another, and it's like an adventure. And through these adventures, I realized that, look, I wanted to learn. I wanted to explore. And it was great fun. And finally, I said, writing jokes is one thing. Learning comedy is another thing. Nobody is doing cartoons. Maybe I should do that because I'm an ideas person. I have the ideas, sure. I didn't have the art, I can't draw. So I said, best is partner somebody. You have to find a solution. So I partnered somebody from New Zealand, and I partnered somebody from Serbia. You can find all these people on the net. And then I started showing people the work. Believe me, when I see that work now, it was so bad that I can't, I don't feel like watching it myself. Trust me, I showed the work all around, which is the best thing I did. And I was looking at my Infusionsoft account. I sent out 100 feedback forms in 3-4 years, 100. Trying to get feedback on how people rate the cartoons on a scale of 1 to 10, etc. Because see, when you try and get feedback, you are facing yourself up to rejection. And that builds up your confidence, because whenever you try to create something new, you have to face rejection. So you've got to practice that. So anyway, my work started getting better. Then I said, if I'm really that bad, maybe I need to do some courses and some tuition. Now, in one of the books, it was called The Comic Toolbox. It said things like that to get one good idea, you have to try 10. And then one good idea comes out. So I started writing a lot of jokes. I started reading a lot of jokes. I must have read in my lifetime over 10, 20,000 cartoons. And no, sorry, I must have written 10,000 cartoons. I must have read lakhs of them. I've actually written 10,000 cartoons. In fact, if 2,000 have been published in the Times of India, 2,000 have been published, and I have easily written 10x. So 20,000 I have easily written. So some of them have to be good. It's probability. So then he explained a lot of nuances to me. One more thing I did. I went and announced to the world that this is my career. So I threw a party in the Oberoi for 300 people, just announcing that I finally found my mojo in life. Now, I am a man I was, and very image conscious. Now, when you go and make such a bold announcement, you have to live up to it, because the last thing I feel I want is to have people laugh at me. So you make the announcement, and after that, you spend sleepless nights saying that, look, I don't want people to laugh at me. So that is a good thing. So another good thing that I did. So this fellow said, I'm going to charge for my time. So I said, never mind. And I took some coaching. It was really worth it. And the ideas was very bad. My ideas were very bad, but he was polite. And he taught me a few tricks, and that helped. I also did about 5-6 online courses. And then I went to the US and did 3 courses over there. So I was very keen to learn. Now, what happened in these courses, especially, in fact, in these courses that I did, one was in New Hampshire, one in Chicago, one in Seattle. See, what happens is you form a different community. I found a different community of people who were passionate about comedy writing and comedy creation. And it's a different world out there. It's very different from the kind of people I've been meeting all along, business people, government people, because the sort of people who I have met most of my life are people who lived in air conditioners. And there I met people, for example, 2 people I remember, some Emily something, some young unwed mother, must have been 20 something or whatever. Now she was doing this course, and I could see that, look, she must have spent all her discretionary available income that month in doing this course, but she was doing it. Then I met another girl over there, again, 20 something, who was a stunt double in the movies. And it was very interesting. She was an expert on firearms. And then in Chicago, I saw her shoes. Trust me, the shoes were like 6 years old. Now, if you go on the snow in Chicago, your shoes, something happened to them, and she hadn't changed her shoes. She probably couldn't afford that. And I was thinking, think of my driver. He wears new shoes every year. And then you realize that what passion means, what commitment means. And here I was sitting over here, and I can afford to change an interest, change a hobby every 6 months. So that's why these communities are helpful. you are exposed to different value systems. Big challenge. I was so immersed in this work, so immersed in it, I forgot about everything else. To me, very frankly, weddings, funerals, hospital visits, restaurants, TV, exercise, all this was part of maintenance. Necessary maintenance so that I could do what I really want to do. Now, I told you I started living in a different world. I was taking courses not only in comedy, not only in cartooning, but in unrelated fields or somewhat related fields like screenwriting. Because in comedy, one very important thing is timing. So to improve your timing, you have to have a good exposure to a lot of other fields. Then I'm good at process development. I pride myself, having run a company, in developing a process for everything. So I had these huge flow charts in the room. And I used to draw processes. This is how I'll do this. This is I'll, come up to 9, come up to 10 cartoons. This is how, so all that I could do. Then I read comics in French. I remember once we went to Berlin and I ordered from, I think, Amsterdam, a whole this big, thick comics called Le Chat in French because I wanted to study a different type of visuals. Somebody called me from Amsterdam saying, "Sir, who are you? And why are you buying this?" Because nobody ever bought this for the last so many years or whatever. So this is what I'm trying to say, that your interests have to diversify. Then I started reading stuff like the autobiography of the guy who started Mad Max. I started dreaming big. I said, can I do this, do that over here? It's that saying, reach for the stars and or whatever, aim at the stars and something, aim at the sky and you'll fall down in the trees. That's exactly what happens. So you have to just dream. And to dream, immerse yourself in different worlds. So that's what I learned. Okay. Then I told you about, took these courses. There was this place in the second city, Chicago, where I learned improv. Improv is acting. Now I'm learning acting. And the other guys over there are 30 years old. And it takes something in improv to open yourself up, where literally you can speak any kind of nonsense and say, and the reason being that, look, I'm confident of saying anything as long as it is spontaneous. They teach you spontaneity, and that is very important in this field. And I think I was trying to build my own rhythm. I'll talk about rhythm later, because this own rhythm was an important. Now, I was feeling a different kind of connect to the world. When I sat down in restaurants, I would try to overhear conversations and try to make something out of it. In the past, my world had been the practicalities of city living, taxes, the immediate family, the world of commerce, and now I was onto a totally different world. And the way I was looking at the world was through my lens of observation, of close observation, of dispassionate observation. For example, everybody watches CNN, during the Trump thing, everybody is watching CNN. So I was watching it too. Now, I was seeing it from the point of view of how can I make this thing funny? Okay, it's tough in the case of Trump, but I tried to make it funny and came out with 2 books, Trump cartoons or whatever. Then I introspected on bosses. I had bosses, I had been a boss. And I introspected and I realized that I had been such a bad boss at times. And I had had such bad bosses. I guess I was a good boss at times. And I said, there is something in bosses that is crazy. And I wrote a lovely book. I really pride myself on that, with Crazy Bosses, a book of cartoons. So See, what I'm doing is understanding. It's like what my mentor told me, that comedy is truth and misery. So if it's not truth, there's no comedy. And if it's not misery, you don't get material to wring comedy out of it. So I brought out the comedy in both these situations, Trump and Crazy Bosses. And I loved doing it. And I did it for myself. It didn't matter the books. I think the Crazy Bosses book, which was on Amazon, sold 6 copies. And 2 of them must have been the ones that I bought. And I don't know how many Trump sold. And if you must know, very frankly, I just came to Delhi, and my assistant who had told me that, sir, कुछ आपके checks पड़े हैं Amazon से आए ऐसे अच्छा कितने के 800 500, and I opened them up just now and they happen to be Great Britain pounds. I'm looking at them. Somebody actually bought the books, and many of them are outdated. I can't encash the checks, but it feels good that some people actually bought the books. And so that's the kind of world I want to live in. I want to be excited about these things. Anyway, yeah.
So, couple of questions which stamp to my mind. When I look at the first phase, that was really trying to discover what your passion was. You went around to Aam Aadmi Party, or I don't know whether you really did it, with the intention or not, or whatever it is. You were experimenting with different things to see whether you enjoyed them or not. And then came the phase when you kind of homed on to humor as an area which is going to be, really something that you want to be immersed into. And then came the area or the phase when you immersed yourself so deeply into it, and then you started expanding.
Right. So there is one simple thread in all of these, that the decision-making criterion was very, very simple. Am I feeling alive or am I not feeling alive? If I'm not feeling alive, then don't do it. I don't know what will make me feel alive, but I know what's not making me feel alive. And I said, let's not do that. Slowly, I'll flow into something that will make me feel alive. So it took me 8 different things before I started feeling alive about something. And then I said, yes, I will commit. And I made that announcement to people that this is it. Otherwise, you'll laugh at me. And so that was it. So that was to answer your question. Then I was telling you, if I stand in hospital lobbies, now I know, that's not we all spend a lot of time in hospitals, carrying people there, yelling people out of there, going there for checkups and all that. So it's a very nice pastime to see what is happening and seeing it dispassionately. See, this thing about seeing things dispassionately was a big boon, at least in my profession, or at least in the thing that I took. And when you look at things dispassionately, you start breathing easy. It's like saying you start developing your own rhythm. I told you about I was fine-tuning my timing. So this thing, and that's what made me feel alive. I was practicing this. I was learning without distraction. One thing definitely I did when I was learning, that phone used to be with somebody, my assistant is sitting there, and I've told him, you keep the phone with you. Anything that happens, you answer it. Obviously it's on silent. You do something and don't disturb me for this next 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, or whatever. Okay. And to tell you the truth, the most enjoyable thing in this whole thing is the learning. And the accelerated learning comes when I started off with the eyes of a kindergarten kid. I know zero. I have zero talent, but there is a whole wide world over there till the university level. I will learn, I will enjoy it, because one thing is for sure. This field I have enjoyed sometime in the past, not recently, but sometime in the past. So let me stick to it. And in the process, I remained in the moment, in that learning. See, being in the moment was in that learning. It was not when I saw the name in the papers, trust me, that lasted about 3 seconds. And I used to get them to cut out all the papers and see them and, weigh them and, feel good. When the forwards used to come, I used to feel good on WhatsApp. But that was about 3 seconds. The main fun is in the struggle. And the struggle is tough. It's that blood, sweat, and tears. And that is where the fun is. So if you take up a serious hobby, first of all, there's a huge difference between a hobby and a serious hobby. Like today, I play bridge. My bridge is 2 hours a day, every day. Plus, I take coaching, which is two sessions in a week. So the time spent on that is not, I do spend a lot of time, but it's not a serious hobby. It's not a do or die hobby. It's not a commitment. It's not a commitment. The difference is, okay, so there are 3 levels: hobby, serious hobby, and professional. Professionalism is when you actually have to make a living. Now, even if the serious hobby goes down, I won't starve, so to speak. I can still, but if your profession, something happens, it's far more serious. So I'm not on that. The second thing that happened was, or the third thing, is the solitude. I started enjoying the solitude. So much so that I started realizing that I'm actually an introvert. Now, all my life, I've been, successful because of my, ability to network, to be an extrovert and all that. And here it is, after 5 decades, I realized that I'm an introvert. And I'm happy being an introvert. So these are the levels of self-awareness that I went through. And I think that was what the struggle was worth. And I had created a unique identity for myself. And I just have a couple of more things to say. So I would say that a serious hobby is an opportunity to find yourself. And a serious hobby, the practice of a serious hobby, is a practice in being yourself, in finding your own rhythm, in finding your rhythm and staying with that rhythm and practicing it again and again. And then what you earn is many, many, many moments, precious moments of feeling alive. And that practice is addictive. And you are willing to pay any price to stay with that addictive practice. It's really addictive. Secondly, there will be challenges. It's very easy to want to give up. My health is gone, my uncle is gone, I have to go there, etc. And the third is you connect to other people with some purposefulness. So those are the advantages that I think I have found, and I'm very glad. I'm not saying that that's my state today and now, because the lockdown pulls you down. Then of late, a lot of people, close friends of mine, like my assistant, he passed away earlier this year because of COVID. So things do pull you down. And unfortunately now, for example, I've started saying I should be spending time with that old aunt before something happens. I should be doing this because, these things have become far more palpable, that things are mortal. And yes, these things slow you down. But my presentation, my talk was about how I developed a serious hobby in the past. And what I learned was I earned precious moments of feeling alive. Thank you.